Hello everybody, hello, 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 welcome, 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 hello and welcome. I am Dan, your friendly fishmonger here at dansfish.com, and we do this live stream every Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. That's 9 Eastern for those who might be mountain challenged. Thanks for spending a little bit of your Wednesday here with us. We're going to talk about fish, so if you like fish, you're in the right place. If you don't like aquariums and aquarium fish, then I don't know what you're doing here, but you're welcome to stay. All right, let's start with the shipping report. So every week I get here in the live stream and I tell you how successful we were at doing our job, which is to get healthy fish to our customers. Not dead fish, not fish that are in bad shape, not fish that are barely breathing, but healthy fish that are thriving and gonna, as Stephen P. 2003 Aquatics says, fish with a will to live. Last week we were at 98.88% success over the last rolling 12 months. Today we've dropped by 0.01%, so we are at 98.87, hanging out there almost at 99%, which is our goal. We're trying to get to 99% success, man, I keep thinking that we're going to get there. We're improving, but it's so gradual. The graph is like a little up, oh, a little down, but not down as far as it was, a little up, a little down. It's just this very, very slow trend towards 99%. So I think we'll get there, but man, it's a slow grind. Like, we're talking hundredths of a percent. Gradual improvements, and every now and then we go down a 100th%, but then we'll go back, and but overall it's going in the right direction. So I don't know, 98.87% success is still really good. I mean, that's just a hair's breadth from 99%, but 99 is my goal, so we'll keep working for it. I did want to ask before we get started too far, there was someone last week, I think it was Divide by Zero, or was it My Name is Nobody? I can't remember. But someone had a Congo spotted puffer they got from us, and they were having a little trouble getting it to eat. So I wanted to follow up and see if it's eating now. I found some information after the fact. We emailed back and forth, and found out that they had been treating with levamisole, and that the puffer had only been there a little while. So I'm not real surprised it wasn't eating very well, especially if it was new and being treated. When fish are having medication, sometimes it makes it so that they don't want to eat, little upset tummy or something like that. But it was eating snails from what I remember, but wasn't eating bloodworms and stuff. So I'm curious now if it's doing better. Is it transferred? Is it now eating bloodworms? Or ours even eat vibrobites. Like, ours literally eat anything we put in the tank, I think. So, Divide by Zero, it's eating, Dan, just snails. All right. Well, we'll have to get it onto bloodworms. All right, Divide by Zero, thanks for the update. It's so curious to me, though. Like, if it will eat snails, why won't it eat frozen bloodworms? I mean, we put those in, and the fish just go nuts for it. But anyway, glad it's eating something, and hope it transfers over to easier to feed food eventually. Let's see here. I'm going to scroll up now and get back to the docket for the day. The next thing on the list, we've done the shipping report, is the giveaway. So the giveaway today is for a group of Siamese algae eaters, and these are the true Siamese algae eaters. So there's a little bit of confusion in the aquarium fish industry. There we go, there's one. I took that picture myself way back in the day. This is what the true Siamese algae eater looks like. It's a fairly nondescript kind of brown fish with a black stripe down the middle that exceeds into the tail, and it just has a shape that's a little different than this. A lot of times people will go to a pet store and ask for an algae eater, and they will be offered this. This is a Chinese algae eater. Very, very different. These guys get big and they're pretty aggressive. And as adults, they don't eat as much algae. So the little ones will do okay for a little while, but then they're going to grow into these big, really aggressive fish that'll become bullies in the tank. Now, they're a neat fish. I don't hate them. They're just not appropriate for most community aquariums. So just be aware of that. Now, if you have a tank full of fish that are semi-aggressive and really boisterous and assertive, then sure, they're a neat fish. They're a gara-like fish. They remind me of a gara. But if you want a nice little peaceful fish to go in your community aquarium, they come in this gold form as well. And go to your pet store and they're like, oh, here's the algae eater. I would highly recommend you avoid the Chinese algae eater. In general, it's not a good fit for most tanks. For most people that are wandering in, just want something to eat the algae for their community tank, that's the wrong fit. There's another fish that is often confused with the Siamese algae eater, and it's this one. It's a beautiful little fish. I really like it. These are the flying foxes. They can also become somewhat aggressive, less so than the Chinese algae eater, I would say, but somewhat aggressive. You can tell the difference. See how it's got this kind of gold iridescence above the stripe, and the stripe's really clear, and then it's got a dark back up on the top. It's not like it doesn't have like reticulations on the scales. And then it's got these dark tips on the fins. If we compare that to the Siamese algae eater, see how the fins are clear pretty much? It's got these kind of tips on the scales that give it this, I call it a reticulated pattern. And it does have a tiny bit of iridescence above the line, but much different than this fish. So the ones we are giving away are these. The reason we carry these and not the others is they tend to be more peaceful. Now, a big adult will get 3-4 inches and will become assertive, but not nearly as much as the other two species. And even as adults, they do a good job eating algae. So to me, this is a long-term solution in many tanks. I've had them in, hundreds of aquariums with many different species. Rarely had a problem. And they'll eat all kinds of benthic algae. So algae that coat surfaces, they do a good job on. They aren't as good at diatom algae. For that, you'd want like a bushy-nosed pleco, that kind of brown algae that coats the front of the tank. They'll get it, but their mouth's small, and they'll kind of, it looks almost like when a ram's horn snail eats it, just little marks where they get it. What they're really good at, though, is going around and eating algae off the leaves of plants, especially kind of tufty algae that's got tufts on it, that isn't necessarily flat like diatom. They will eat diatom, just takes them a long time to really clear a pane of glass. Not nearly as efficient as a bushy nose. But in a planted aquarium, I think they do a dang good job. So, if you would like to be entered to win some true Siamese algae eaters, hashtag AlgaeBeGone. That's hashtag ALGAEBEGONE. No spaces, capitalizations do not matter. Algae be gone. Hopefully that's, you get hashtags that are too complicated and they become difficult for people to enter in the chat. But I see people putting it in there right now. So looks like people are doing it just fine. All right. So that is what will be given away a little later today. If you enter that hashtag AlgaeBeGone into the chat, then you'll automatically be entered to win. And a little later tonight, we'll draw the winners. And let's go ahead and go here to, I want to show you a few new fish. Not a ton, but things that were listed recently. Platinum half-beaks. Now, we got these from a hobbyist breeder here in the United States. So they didn't go through the stress of import. They were raised by a hobbyist. And they look great, but they are smaller than usual. So they're, I would say, about 3/4 of an inch to an inch in size. So a little smaller than what we normally sell. But again, hobbyist bred and raised, so probably healthier than the standard ones in the industry. The half-banded eel, these guys are doing fantastic for us. Some blue-eyed lemon bushy nose, some more blue glares from Wari. Some gold lyre-tail killies. And let's see here. If we get down to this one, there's a couple really neat ones. We were able to list some more dwarf Mary widows. Phylictes tico, very rare little fish. Really neat little live bear. I think they're fantastic. Tiny little things. I like the kind of contrast on the fins. I like the blue eyes. And they're just one you never see. And then this one of the most underrated rainbow fish, I think, is the one from Komeng River. They look beautiful even when they're not firing. A lot of times rainbow fish look fairly dull until they fire, and then they get their blaze going and they flash on and off and all that. These guys look pretty much like this, that nice iridescent blues and purples and things, even when they're not firing. In our group, they're nice big adults, so they're colored up really nicely right now. So just some things to tell you about that we have here at Dan's Fish. We were able to list some of the blue flame apistos. We listed those, I think they all sold out within an hour or so. We listed those just a little while ago tonight, and they went really fast. We are also, I think, completely sold out of the dwarf red-tailed eels. I tried to get more, but the breeder doesn't have any available right now. So working on it. I'll keep trying. Okay, with that, let's get to your questions and comments. James Holbrook, is this guy located in Casper, Wyoming? No, I'm in Sheridan, Wyoming. I'm 2 hours north of Casper. Okay, scrolling here. I'm going to get to your questions and comments now. Before I do, I want to thank the moderators, especially Punchy Paints. Haven't seen Punchy around a lot lately, so it's great to have you back, Pam. Hope you're doing really, really well. Okay, here's one. What are your recommendations for fish for a 2-gallon tank? So that's going to depend on your level of expertise. Smaller tanks are more difficult to keep the parameters stable in. There's just less volume, so when things change, they change more rapidly. But provided you're able to keep the parameters nice and steady, then there's a few things that I think would do okay in a 2-gallon tank. I think that chili rasboras would do fine. I think that pygmy cories would do fine. I think that wrestling half-beaks or platinum half-beaks would do fine, especially if there's a lot of plants and stuff up there. So basically what I'm looking for is fish that are small, nanofish, and that aren't like really active, fast swimmers. So fish that are small and kind of like to hang out. They'll move around some, but they're not zipping around like, I always say, like a zebra danio. That's what comes to mind when I think of a really fast active fish, or a rainbow fish. Now that being said, there are some of the dwarf pseudomugils where you could probably put a couple pairs in a 2.5 gallon. I think that some of the wild type bettas like Betta cochina or Betta chinoides or Alba marginata, some of the peaceful small guys, Betta brownorum, would do well. I think a Betta splendens would do well. So there's some options like that. I think you're just small and not a real fast swimmer. Toothpick fish. Toothpick fish are bizarre and amazing. I think they would do great. Pygmy dwarf sunfish would do awesome. The Elosoma genus. So there's some thoughts. Natalie B, when you have pairs for sale, is the number listed for the number of pairs or individuals? Number of pairs. So let's give you an example. Scrolling here. So what is sold by a pair? Well, the killifish are. So if we look at like this is for a pair, one male, one female. So quantity 1 is 1 pair. Yep. Okay, going back. Here we are. By the way, I should take a moment to thank all of our customers. We had our best month ever last month. It was great. It was amazing. And we were actually a little low on inventory for the first couple weeks of the month, just because we're doing some imports and things, and it's throwing off kind of our inventory flow, and some special imports that we don't usually do. And we still had a record month. So thanks, everybody. Thanks for trusting us to get you nice, healthy fish. Thanks for spreading the word. And hopefully we're living up to the hype. We're doing our best every day to live up to the hype. But it's awesome to see the business grow. It's awesome to see us get to the point where we can take care of our employees. And I don't know if everyone knows this, but we have been able to hire a fish health officer, a fish quote unquote doctor, if you will. Their full-time job is they work at a lab, a diagnostic lab, and they look at fish and they look for problems, any parasites, any worms. They're also very skilled at looking at the organs of the fish. Is the heart enlarged? Is the spleen or liver really active? There's different indications when you look at different organs that the fish is fighting off something. So when you examine a fish, for example, you might not see a virus, let's say. But if the fish is fighting off a virus, then maybe its liver is super active or something like that. So it's like, hey, the fish looks great, but the liver's enlarged. Let's just hold off another week. Or recently, we brought in a group of cardinal tetras, and they looked great, but their hearts were enlarged. And so this person is able to keep track of that, make sure that they're recovering. And after a few weeks, it's like, okay, the hearts are normal now. We're good to go. So it's just been awesome to have that person in place. But that's the kind of thing, I have big plans for this company to fulfill our mission of, getting healthy fish to our customers, doing right by the fish, basically. And that's the kind of thing as we grow that we'll be able to lean into more. I can look at fish and I can pretty much tell if a fish is feeling good, but those cardinal tetras looked perfect to me. I wouldn't have known that their hearts were enlarged. I didn't know they had myocarditis because they were acting fine, looked fine, no parasites that I could see, eating great. So it's just helping us level up so much, having someone with the expertise to see the things that I can't see. So that's the kind of thing we do as we grow. All right, Chris Smith. Hi, Fish Fam. My tiger teddies are doing fantastic. This is the best group of tiger teddies we've ever had. They are fat and sassy. They look amazing, and they have for weeks. So if you've wanted tiger teddies but heard that they're delicate or whatever, I would recommend this batch. They're great. They're the best I've seen. Or if you've tried tiger teddies from us, usually they've done really well for people. But there have been a couple cases where they didn't. And if that was you, I'm sure you got a refund and were made whole. I'm sure we refunded you for the cost of the fish and the shipping associated with the fish. But if that left a little bad taste in your mouth, but you're like, but I still like the fish, I would really recommend trying again with this group. This is, again, the best group of tiger teddies I've ever seen. My tiger teddies are doing fantastic that I received from you. Having a hard time finding info on how often they drop fry. Do you know by chance? I don't know. My gut would be like 28 to 32 days. But I don't know for sure. I know they have babies all the time here, but I haven't. There's many females in the tank, and so I don't know which female drops, so I haven't been able to gauge that. I wish I could help you, Natalie. There are people in the chat, though, that might know that. So if you know about tiger teddies, Chris, Natalie was the other one. If you know how often, what the gestation period, if you will, is for tiger teddies, would you drop it down in the chat and we can help Chris out? Okay, scrolling up because chat jumped. Oh, chat jumped hard because of all the entries for the true Siamese algae eaters. Cool videos from a cool guy, says Platinum Halfbeak. Oh yeah, I love them. They look like little miniature alligator guards. I think they're fantastic. Gold Nugget Pleco Tetra. I love blue gularis, especially the trident tail. Yep. Yeah, when people ask me what's your favorite fish, I'll often say Fundulopanchax gardneri. Sometimes I'll say Aphyosemion or Chrome Aphyosemion bivitatum funge. But also blue gularis. Like, how can you pick one? Cora Works. What is one member of a cleanup crew that is frequently overlooked? Bonus points if you have them in stock. I think there's so many different options for a cleanup crew. I think people often overlook snails. I think sometimes people have an idea that snails are bad, and I think they're fantastic. I like pond snails. I like ram's horn snails. Now, they can be a host for disease, so not every disease, but if you have a tank and you have fish in it and they have a problem, they get sick or something, then certain illnesses can be carried on and transmitted by the snail to new fish. If you got new fish in to replace those old ones after waiting a couple weeks, and you're like, I think it's all cleared out, put the new ones in, the snails could be a reservoir for that. But in general, I think snails are fantastic, and it's only certain things that they can do that with. It's not like they can't pass on ick, for example, or lots of other diseases. But I like snails, and I think I don't have them in stock just because I don't sell all the quote-unquote pest snails that we have, but we've got tons of them, and I think they're fantastic. So that's what I'm going to go with. What else? I know there's so many. I think if you have a planted tank and you want to keep the algae under control, then I think the best way to do it, and I don't think that this is going to be news to seasoned people, but the tanks that I have a load of shrimp in, cherry shrimp or Amano shrimp or pretty much any kind of Caridina or Neocaridina shrimp, those tanks, the Java moss looks, the water sprite looks excellent, and I don't have hair algae and stuff in it. So I think an army of shrimp, some snails, a bushy-nosed pleco can be very helpful, especially on panes of glass. I think autocinchlists are great for around plants as well. But if you have an army of shrimp and snails, you probably don't need them. So I don't know. I think there's lots of options for cleanup crew. As far as which ones are overlooked, I don't know. Pest snails, I guess. Can you talk about how Pangioloches are collected in the wild? I'd love to get them tank bred, but I know that's super rare. Thanks. I don't know a lot about how Kuliloches are collected in the wild. At one time I did, but I've forgotten. Do they put like the hollow tubes in there? That's clown loaches. I truly don't know. I'd have to look back into that. There's lots of, so my brain can only hold on to certain things. I research a lot. I mean, less the last few months. I've been too busy, but I like reading about fish and I like knowing my industry. And so I absorb a lot of information, but I don't always retain it all. Like as I get a bunch more information in, like I add to the top and some on the bottom falls out a little bit. I can't remember all the details. So I used to know that, but I've forgotten. Recently set up 12-gallon rimless. Any stock suggestions? There's so many, Ashton. Can you give me a list of like 5 or 6 fish that you like, and I can tell you if they could go in there? There's literally thousands of species of fish that could go in there, so it's hard for me to narrow it down. If you could narrow it down for me, then I could help you out better. New friends, my 8-year-old wants to work for you, and she very much wants you to read that out loud. Hello! Hello, daughter of new friends. She says she'll need help with how to feed and catch the fish. I love that your 8-year-old is into it. That's great. Canis lupus. Do German importers like Glasser and Deisenbach already do the deworming, etc., or does it still have to be done by me? I've heard the Germans are better. In my experience, sometimes they're fine, other times we have to deworm them. So it totally depends on what you're getting. So I would say if it's wild, it's probably still a good idea to go ahead and deworm them. If they're bred and raised by aquarists in Germany, much more likely that they'll not need that. But I have had a few cases where I brought in some wild type live bears, some of the rare platies and stuff, and took me a little while to figure them out. Eventually figured out, oh, they've got some parasites. So, and those were aquarium bred and raised. So I would say that they're better than most for sure, but there are still cases where you can run into issues where there could be parasites from, I think, any supplier really. Sid Miller, what's the main difference between flying foxes and Siamese algae eaters? Well, things that matter, I think, for the aquarist are, I think the flying foxes are more assertive, a little more aggressive, and I don't think they do as good a job eating algae. But as far as what they look like, I went over that at the beginning of the stream. So if you haven't already seen it, that you might have left that comment before I did that. But I went over that earlier, the difference in their looks. K. Henry, my angelfish eat the cory cat's sinking food even after lights out and get very bloated. Do you have any feeding advice? Yes. So I'm not saying this is one of those setups. I'll get to some advice in a minute, but there are definitely times when you put different species together and realize, the way I keep fish and feed fish, this isn't going to work. Like, I just can't get food to this species. I've got to separate these. So that's part of learning. That's part of figuring out, how to take care of fish. If you have a lot of angelfish, it's going to be difficult to get enough food to the cories, for sure. Because angelfish are very excited eaters, and they can eat a lot. I know what you're talking about. They eat so much they're bloat out. Yeah. So now angelfish do need to be able to see their food to eat it. They don't have barbels or anything like that. So my main advice would be make the tank darker. I'm assuming it's in a room with ambient light, or there's light coming off some equipment in the tank. Maybe the heater, I don't know what, but if you can make it darker, then I think you'll be okay. Now, one other thing you can try is you can make a little feeding tube where you get a piece of like PVC pipe and have that so you can stick it down and maybe be attached to like a flower pot saucer or something like that. And so if you have a flower pot saucer, I don't have anything like it with me. Flower pot saucer, piece of PVC. Then you can cut a hole in the flower pot saucer or what have you that's the right size for the PVC to kind of abut it. You can tilt that up slightly so the flower pot saucer is tilted so there's room for the cories to get under it, but not the angels. And then you can drop food down that pipe into that saucer at feeding time. And that way the cories can go under that plate or saucer or what have you, get some food, and the angels can't fit under there. So that's one thing that you could try. That or much darker at night. Those would be my best suggestions. Kelly Foreman says, congratulations on a record month. Hey, thanks. Thanks, Kelly. It was awesome. We did not expect it. I thought it might be a little slower than normal, actually, because, our inventory was a little off, but yeah, it was great. And thanks for all your support. Big Steve's Glassbox Creations did the thing that Big Steve's Glassbox Creations has been doing for quite a while now, many weeks. Gifted a Dance Fish membership. Thank you so much, Big Steve. Big Steve, hope to run into you at an event someday. Say thanks. Fluffy Cow Aquatics, hello from Wyoming. Question: can you have pygmy cories and habrosus cories in the tank without crossbreeding? Lastly, best rice fish for tubbing. Okay, I'm assuming that both those species would hybridize. I don't know that. I've never tried it, but a lot of cories can. I think those are all from the same lineage. Okay, I'm making assumptions. Well, let me look something up real quick. If they're from the same lineage, then I would really think they could hybridize. Pygmy cory lineage. Let's see here. Lineage 4 is Corydoras pygmaeus, according to Planet Catfish. By the way, let me put planetcatfish.com. If you don't know Planet Catfish and Scott Cat, great websites with good information about catfish in general. And then habrosus. Let's try Corydoras habrosus. Corydoras habrosus lineage. Are they 4 as well? That's lineage 9. So they come from 2 very separate lineages. So maybe they wouldn't. Maybe you could keep them together. I've never tried a fluffy cow, but they do come from different lineages. Has anyone in the chat tried it? Anyone know? Okay, scrolling here on the chat to find the next question, which is... Canis Lupus asks, what would be an ideal weekly diet schedule for Shodeni pufferfish? Not sure if I can manage. I don't think Shodeni puffers have to be difficult to feed. The main challenge with feeding puffers is wearing down their tooth plates, their beaks, if you will. Certain puffers have tooth plates that grow really, really fast. Amazon puffers, for example. Delightful fish, awesome fish, but need to crunch on things to keep those tooth plates worn down. Shodeni puffers, in my experience, don't have that issue. At least I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen the tooth plates overgrow. Now, maybe it's like, oh, in 2 years they will or something. But I think that a mix of like frozen bloodworms, mysis shrimp, and vibrobites. Ours eat vibrobites all the time, Hikari vibrobites. And maybe, so those are kind of frozen and prepared foods. And then maybe a fun snack a couple times a week of snails or scuds or Neocaridina shrimp or grass shrimp or glass shrimp or something like that. Blackworms, you know, something like that would be fun for them. But I think the staple diet could be bloodworms with occasional feedings of freshwater mysis shrimp or something like that. We also feed ours, we'll buy like frozen seafood at the grocery store and give different seafoods to them. We'll give them calamari. Yeah, this is raw, frozen, not cooked stuff, right? We'll give them shrimp on occasion, table shrimp. We don't do that often because shrimp supposedly has, I forget the name of that chemical, starts with a T, that you don't want to feed too much of. And we'll feed scallops. I look very closely at the ingredients list. I make sure they don't have preservatives in them. If they do have a preservative, it's just salt. There are a lot of seafood has I forget what the name of the chemicals are, but they put this chemical in to preserve and to keep the texture a certain way. So I avoid that. I just want the frozen thing itself. Maybe water's an ingredient in there, and maybe salt. I'm not afraid to feed things that have salt in them to fish. I don't think that's never been a problem to me. But usually it's just the organism itself frozen, no other ingredients. So, but frozen bloodworms, you could feed those most days and have a pretty good diet for the fish, and then rotate in some other stuff on occasion. I don't think it has to be all that difficult. Mannequin 87, I've been looking into start breeding fancy plecos, and the ocelot on your site caught my eye. I was wondering if a 20-gallon long would be large enough to try and how many plecos to start. Yeah, 20-gallon long would be huge for L174 ocelot plecos. How many? Like, I myself like groups of fish. I would like 8 or 12 personally, but if you can get just a pair, there's no reason you couldn't start with just a pair, male and female. We can't do that. We're not very good at sexing plecos. I mean, every now and then we'll be like, well, that one, like the males are easier, right? And once they develop the odontotis or whatever they're called, the teeth on the outside of the body, basically, all those big spikes and stuff on the pectoral fins and their whisker spikes. That's what I call them. The ones on the operculum, right under the operculum. Then you can kind of tell, oh, that's a male. But the females is like, is that a female or is that a male that just isn't really, buffed up yet, I guess. So, but yeah, I think you could fit a lot of that species in a 20-gallon. I think you could fit 8 to 12 without any problem. Divided by zero, any chance we could get this person to come on and give us a talk from diagnostics to treatment? Yes, we'll need some time to get all that together, but yeah, that's something we want to do. We have plans for that kind of thing. For those that are here, come to the 4th of July barbecue. I should pitch that again. For those that don't know, I mean, I think everyone here knows, but I'm going to go to the channel here and show y'all. If you go to the Dancefish channel and click on community, we are having a barbecue for the 4th of July. We're having it on the 5th and 6th of July here at Dancefish. And yeah, we're planning on showing some fish health stuff. Here's the stuff we see, here's how we take care of it, that kind of thing. And for those that were waiting, I promised I would put up an option for dorm housing at Sheridan College. They're like 2 miles down the street from the warehouse, real close. Starts at $39 and goes up from there. So there's a post here about that. Lots of information about that. If you're interested in some discount housing and you don't mind the dorm lifestyle. Okay. Oh, chat jumped again. Okay, Spinster. Hey, Spinster sister, good to hear from you. I bought 2 blackworms, numbers of 2 pounds. That's what that is. How do you culture them? Do you cut them in half or do they lay eggs? Help. So I've got a video on it. If you would check the, just check the channel, type in, I don't know, go to YouTube, type in Dancefish Blackworms. Let's see if that'll pull it up. Yeah, so I just typed in Dancefish Blackworms. I have a video called Homegrown Blackworms. So that, I think, will get you started. I don't cut them in half, but the farms do. The farms will take like this big kind of rake type thing and go across the run that the water's going through. And that will, that'll cut them up, and then each little section becomes an individual worm. I don't do that. I just feed the heck out of them and they multiply. Fish for life. Do you plan on bringing in any of the rare South American tetras? I do have a few that that should arrive later this week, actually. But until they're out of quarantine, I don't want to get into specifics. But yeah, I like some of them. I like all of them. The price point. So I can get some of that stuff. Like I can bring in some of the stuff from Aquarium Glassware and stuff, and some of those tetras. But the price point's really expensive. We're talking like 40 to 60 bucks per fish for a lot of those. And so I've kind of just not done it because my experience in the past is that there's a very small market for fish at that price. Like tetras at that price are hard to move. So I just haven't pulled the trigger, Fish for Life. I'm a little trigger shy because of the price. But I know a breeder that breeds lots of really cool stuff. I'm bringing in a couple, I'd say 3 or 4 species of rare tetras. At least I'm trying to. Hopefully they arrive later this week, and hopefully they do well, and hopefully after a couple weeks of quarantine, I can talk about them. But yeah, I'm always trying to do that. And that's kind of what we do here. We're hobbyists too, so we're real excited when we see the new cool stuff. But I also have to be realistic and realize, well, someone's got to buy these. So I calculate how much they cost, and then I look at what I'd have to sell them for, and then I kind of check what's going on in the market, and I'm like, oh, I don't know. Sometimes I just have to pass because I'm trying to run a business. I can't bring stuff in that doesn't sell, or we will go out of business. But yeah, 3 or 4 species soon, hopefully. Mike, what would outward signs of enlarged? There aren't any. That's the thing. You don't see it from the outside. So now eventually, if there's severe organ failure, sometimes the fish will dropsy, right? It'll just retain water really badly and not be able to osmoregulate, and that's when you get dropsy. But barring that, fish can look totally healthy, and you don't see them unless you open them up, dissect them, look at them under the microscope, really analyze them. We have some neat software that allows you under the microscope to kind of measure things. So you can see how big things are. Takes measurements. Stephen White, what has been your experience with chalceus? The red-tailed, I call them pink-tailed chalceus, I think, or red-tailed chalceus. So I think we're talking about the same thing. Is this the one we have in stock right now? Yeah. Okay, I think this is a delightful fish. I have no complaints. They're active. They will jump. But they don't bother other fish. I've had them in with several other species at this point and not had any problems. They grow, what, 6-7 inches? But they're really peaceful. Now, we feed them a lot of veggies. Make sure that there's a lot of veggies mixed into their diet. That's pretty important for the species. But I have no complaints. I think they're really pretty. Beautiful fish. Nice kind of tips on the scales and that bright red tail. Yeah, I think they're fantastic. I like them much, much better than I thought I would. Leslie Perry, when feeding frozen bloodworms, to thaw or not to thaw? That is my question. I thaw, but not because I think feeding frozen is bad. The reason I thaw is because then I can take a turkey baster, suck them up, and when I feed, I can kind of squirt them in different areas. That way I can make sure that they're spread out enough that one dominant fish doesn't say like, those are mine, and take them all. So that's the only reason I thaw. Every now and then, I'll feed some frozen chunks of bloodworms to the puffers, but generally I thaw first, just because I like to control how they're dispersed in the aquarium, so I can make sure people get the food they need. People. Fish are people too. W. Robo. The Montezuma swordtails and black-chin live bears came in great condition today. They're enjoying the outdoor, I think that says ponds. I hope you were thrilled with them. I think both those species are looking really good. And those Montezuma swordtails, we've been caring for those for a long time to get them to the point we could sell them. So, yeah. I love the Monties and the Nezzies. Every time I walk by those tanks, I just have to be like, oh man, take a minute and like, you know, wipe the drool off my face and be like, those are so pretty. KCM Aquatics. Would you be interested in fundulus notatus, a native North American killifish? Have pairs breeding like crazy? Probably not. Dan the Hobbyist. I'll show people this fish. Dan the Hobbyist thinks that is an amazing little fish. But I know the market is going to see a brown fish with some stripes on it, right? And it's not going to be, I don't think, one that moves very quickly. So me as a hobbyist, I would buy these and breed them and really enjoy them. Me as a businessman, I don't think it would be a good move. I just don't think the market's there for them. But I'm glad you've got them. I'm glad they're doing great for you. Like I want to, because killifish are my jam. And I love native killifish. Fundulus catenatus is one of my favorite fish of all time. I like chrysotis a lot. I like the pup fishes. Okay, I'm trying to think if there's a way that I could do that. I don't think so, KCM. I just don't think the market's there. But if you would like to sell them, check out getgills.com. You can list them there for free. The website takes like 5% of the final sale price just to help maintain the website. No one's getting rich off that. But getgills.com is a place where you as a hobbyist could list fish for sale if you're interested. Jody P. Mollies are a great cleanup crew. They are indeed. Yeah, mollies, swordtails, platies. One of the best ones is Xiphophorus milleri, the Catamaco live bearer. That's one where if we had, back when we were selling plants, if we had like an Anubias or I don't know, whatever, that started getting algae on it, we would put it in the Xiphophorus milleri tank, and within an hour or two, they would have cleared the algae off. They loved it. So yeah, mollies, swordtails, platies, lots of live bears are good for that. Sid Miller, will otters eat Amazon swords like bristlenose? Will whiptails? In my experience, no. In my experience, I haven't had ottos or whiptails eat Amazon swords. I even kept like a really big flourishing Amazon swordtail in a show tank with 3 or 4 L182s. They were the black Ancestris pleco with the white spots all over it, and they didn't have the white margin on the caudal fin as adults. I think that's 182. Could be 181, 183. But certain plecos I think you can keep swordtails with, okay? Swordtails, Amazon sword plants with, okay? The ram's horns totally overtook the bladder snails in my rocket killie tank, almost all red and pink. Oh, cool. Yeah, we have our ram's horns throw a pink kind of reddish line, and I've never separated them out to work it or anything, but frequently we see bright pink snails here. I think they're really pretty. Will pea puffers eat planaria? Asked Sid. I don't know. I've never had planaria and pea puffers in the same tank. I'm assuming they would, those little devils, little murder beans. But I don't know. I'm sure someone here in the chat knows. Folks, have you ever had pea puffers with planaria? And if you have, did they eat the planaria? I'm guessing they would. Holly, I currently have 3.5-inch angels with 2 platinum half peaks. I have floating plants in the tank. As the angels grow, will they start going after the half peaks? Yes and no. So I have lots of tanks where fish spawned in that tank. We sold all the fish, and then we put a different species in there. And then these little babies grew up with that species. And what I observe happening is, at first, they'll target those fish. But when they're unsuccessful, they'll gradually be like, oh, I guess it's not worth it, and they'll kind of stop. So I think that's what will happen with your angelfish. Until the day when they get lucky and they just happen to nab one and eat it. I think they eventually will probably do that. But right now I have, as an example, a 75-gallon tank that has tons of baby Odessa barbs in it. It also has full-grown electric blue jack dempseys. It has full-grown archerfish. It has full-grown roseline barbs. And they don't bother those little things at all. Now, those little babies are wily, and they know to hang out by the Java moss and stuff, but they're going to live. Like, I don't think they're going to get eaten because they're smart. And because the other fish are so accustomed to them and to not being able to catch them. But I think with angelfish and platinum half-beaks, I think it's just a matter of time. Because the half-beaks aren't, they'll like, if approached, they'll jump or they'll like jet real quick, but then they'll stay, right? They aren't real fast, strong swimmers. So a lot of times fish don't eat their tank mates, even if they're too small, until the day they do. So I'd say you probably get away with it for a while, but I wouldn't be confident that it could last forever. Any fish will do. 2 organic zucchini. Well, okay, what is that in reference to? I'm trying to remember. Oh, here's a super chat for organic zucchini. I see what you're doing there, Any Fish Will Do. Thanks for the super chat. Thanks for donating to the zucchini fund. We do use quite a bit of zucchini here. Okay, Ashton's follow-up on what to put in a 12-gallon rimless. I want to put honey gouramis maybe, so tank mates for them. Yeah, honey gouramis are beautiful. So honey gouramis are a peaceful fish. I mean, 2 males might go at it a little bit, but they're fairly peaceful, especially with other species of fish. So if you had like a nice big male honey gourami and there's the centerpiece, then you could get almost any other fish in there that's the right size and isn't aggressive in, because yeah, that's really it. If they're the right size to not get eaten or not eat the honey gourami, and in a 12-gallon, you're not going to be getting large fish, I wouldn't assume. as long as they're not nippy and stuff, I think almost anything, Ashton. If I had a honey gourami, I would definitely do corridors in there. And what would I do for the top layer? I don't know. I probably some hatchet fish or something like that. 12-gallon pygmy hatchets, dwarf hatchets, stuff like that. You could also do some. Oh no, never mind. I forgot it's rimless. So don't do hatchets. Don't do killifish. They're all gonna jump. Top layers are difficult on rimless tanks because surface-dwelling fish, true surface-dwelling fish, their escape method is to jump. And so maybe actually avoid that. Yeah. So I don't know, some cories, some cories would probably be good. If you do full-grown pygmy cories or habrosis or something like that, I think you'd be okay. I think like the Fireline rasboras might be good. They don't get too big. They're peaceful. They've got that kind of beautiful red color. So those are some thoughts, Ashton. Jody P, is it possible to get 2 female neon blue guppies? We'll have any pairs of the blue diamond guppies available. I'm obsessed with blue guppies. Yeah, Jody, I can tell. That's a question for Johnny, who says, we can get you some females, just email me. Okay, so send Johnny an email, hello@dancefish.com. HELLO@dancefish.com, Jody, and he'll do it. New friends, so I have mollies in my container pond, and they mostly seem to hang out at the bottom. Are they unhappy? I've got lots of floating plants and some down at the substrate, and a hide. Well, I don't know if they're unhappy. A couple things. So a container outdoors can have different temperature zones, right? So it could be that the temperature down at the bottom is more stable and what they like, and so they're hanging out there. I don't think that's the main factor by any means, but it could be a factor. What I think the main factor probably is that if the surface fish are exposed, you know, birds get them, all kinds of things want to eat them. Raccoons love them. So if there's activity around, they're going to go to the bottom. So if you come out and it's on a patio, let's say, and you're walking across your porch or patio or whatever, and they feel the vibrations, which mean the big creature is coming, then they might go down to the bottom. What I'm saying is they might not actually hang out at the bottom. It just might be that when you're there, that's what you see. So it might be worth taking like a little camera or something, setting it up and walking away and seeing, do they come back? Do they then go to the surface? Also, are they new? If you just put them in recently, they might hug the bottom because they're still settling in. But those are my main thoughts. Temperature zone, probably not the issue, but just something. But mainly I think it's, trying to avoid getting eaten. I think it's just an instinct for them to be like, whoop, go down. Now, if they're down there all the time, and they're down there all the time, and you've had them for a long time, then it could be that there is something wrong. Although when I see mollies that are sick, they don't necessarily hang out at the bottom. Some might be on the bottom, some might be in the top in a corner, but they'll kind of sit and do this, right? Just do that little kind of shimmy thing. That's to me when a molly is really not doing well. Just kind of sitting in one spot going like this. Jerry Serple Morris. Jerry, hello. I hope your visit to Sheridan was awesome. Hello, Dan. I ordered the Golden Dwarf barbs. Any recommendations on acclimating? Do you drip or float them? And do you think I can put them in a summer tub right away or acclimate indoors first? I would say that, well, they're used to 79 degrees. So if you're going to go much below 70 degrees, I would do that gradually, the temperature change. As far as acclimating, I would float the bag in the tank they're going in long enough for the temperature to equalize pretty much, and then I would just let them out. So that's how we do it. We don't do the drip acclimating. I think that drip acclimating is not necessarily a bad thing, but I think a lot more fish are harmed via drip acclimation by well-meaning folks than are harmed by just temperature's good. Okay, we're gonna open the bag and get them out. Oh, you know what? I missed something. Someone asked about the best rainbow fish, and are not rainbow fish, rice fish, didn't they? And I totally forgot to answer that second part of their comment, their question. For me, the best rice fish for a pond is the Miyuki rice fish, and I wish I had some to sell you. Here's why I like them. Let me show you this. So the Miyuki rice fish have, across the back, they've got this really bright, glowing dorsal surface. You can see it kind of there. See if we can see any pictures from the top. Here you go. And from the top, they just glow like beautiful. So in a pond or a tub, you're looking down on the fish. You want something like that, where the color's on the dorsal surface. So for me, the Miyuki strain is the one that looks the best in a pond or a summer tub or what have you. Now, barring that, there's lots of platinums, right? Bright white ones, bright orange ones, bright yellow ones that you'll see as well. But they won't have that neon glow to them as much. Jody P, Dan's Fish, I just want to thank you and the team for sending out such amazing fish, and Johnny for answering my countless emails. You are all the best. Does do a good job on customer service. I think we landed with a superstar in that department. So I agree. And Jody P, thank you so much for the generous super chat. Always appreciated, never required. But we are like the little engine that could. We're a growing company, and every little bit helps and is appreciated. So Sid's asking about the difference between Siamese algae eaters and flying foxes. Yeah, we did that. So Siamese algae eater, flying fox, and if you go back earlier, I'll talk about the difference between them. So I think that, Sid. Wade, hey, any particular reason you don't carry multis? I would love to get some, and it'd be great to know I was getting them from you guys. I love your protocols. Multis are actually one of the only Rift Lake cichlids that we would carry. So if anyone out there has multifasciatus, is it Lamprologus or Neolamprologus these days? I think it's Lamprologus. Then that is one of the Rift Lake cichlids that we would get in. I like Rift Lake cichlids, but most of them just don't move for us. But multis do. One of my in one tank, 3 of my fish, they're Mabuna, have gotten a brown lining on the inner side of their lips. It is also a bit spiky. If you look closely, do you happen to know what it could be? Thanks. I would have to be there and observe the fish, Canis, to really be helpful, or get a super clear picture. Yeah, I wouldn't, I mean, Mabuna have teeth for scraping algae, so is it just their teeth, or is it like a growth? It's really hard to diagnose issues without being there. Sometimes when you're there, you still can't diagnose someone until you get them in the lab. So I don't think there's much I'll be able to do, but you know, if you can send us a really clear picture, I can take a look and maybe I'll be like, oh yeah, that. But it's hard to, it's hard to diagnose fish. It really takes a specialist and a lab in a lot of cases. Wish I could help you more. Fish Hunter, tomorrow I will be getting an order from you containing 1 emerald betta. Oh, they look so good. The Smargadina look amazing. And other fish. Should I put the betta in a well-planted 65 community aquarium or a 10-gallon where he'll be alone? I think alone is probably better. You could put them in a well-planted 65-gallon community, but I don't know what the other fish are. The issue with wild-type bettas and other fish is the feeding time. They'll hang out in the plants and they probably won't get picked on or anything, but at feeding time, they're very slow to eat. They'll kind of go up and be like, boom, They're not fast swimmers, right? In the meantime, the other fish are like, and all the food's gone. So now maybe you have really peaceful, chill fish in that 65 gallon and be fine. But in general, I think they're kind of a little bit more specialized and do better in their own space. But again, I don't know what you have in that tank. So, all right. I just saw the comment from Stephen P 2003 who said my last email from customer service email from Johnny was like 40 characters long. He's working too hard. All right. Leah says, I'd love to add killifish, but have open tanks. Are they all jumpers? Yes. I mean, Florida flagfish, maybe not so much. Some pupfish, not as much. But everything else, in my experience, jumps. And the flagfish and things can as well. So, all right, I want to get to the drawing here. So let's do that. Let's reward the people that are here earlier. And plus, I'm going to probably end a little earlier tonight. I have a big couple days coming up, and I need to get prepared. So, the drawing is for a group of Siamese algae eaters. Went over them and why I love them and think they're amazing algae-eating fish earlier in the stream. But much better than Chinese algae eaters and flying foxes when it comes to that, in my opinion. And so, let's see, how many people entered to win? We've got 170 folks who entered to win, and the winner is David's Aquatics. David, you won. Congrats. Now you have 2 minutes to chime in. I'm going to set a timer here. All right. Timer is going. So you have 2 minutes to chime in and leave a comment in the chat, because you do have to be here and let us know you're here to win. If you do that, then we'll move on. If you don't leave a comment in the chat in the next 2 minutes from when the time the timer was set, then you forfeit your winnings and we'll draw somebody else. Mega Mindy Lou, hey Dan, I'm up to my eyeballs in cribs. Thanks. They are beautiful. Can I put them outside in my 44-gallon pond? The temps are getting up in the 80s now. It's so hot. I think so. Yeah, I think that'd be fine. So I wouldn't let the water temps get much below 70 or much above, like, you know, provided there's oxygen and like an air stoner or something like that in the pond, much above 83 degrees or something in that range, and I think you'd be okay. If you put them in the pond, though, it might be hard to see. They like to hang out at the bottom. Or did you get the albinos? Can't remember. If you got the albinos, you'll probably see more. Curtis Ramsey, when you get new fish in that you are medicating, how many times a day do you feed them to help them recover? It depends. Some fish, when you're medicating, you don't feed. There's some medications that when you're using them, you don't feed the fish. And then there's other fish that they come in, it's like, oh, we got to feed those a couple times a day. And often, so there's something else we do too. So the number of times a day is a little deceiving. Sometimes I might only feed once a day, but I'll put so much baby brine shrimp in there that they'll eat it all day long. Or I'll put enough like large water stable food in there, like extreme monster pellet or rapashi or a big algae wafer or something. Put that in there, and then they can graze on that all day long. So with skinny fish, we try to keep food in front of them as much as we can. But it doesn't necessarily mean you have to feed 10 times a day. You can choose foods that the fish can just graze on. Now, there's certain fish that you can't do that because they'll way overeat and bloat out and stuff. But the majority of fish, if you put large, kind of dry prepared food in there, they'll snack on it for quite a while. Like guppies will just nosh on that for hours. And lots of other fish will too. So that's more of what we do. Now, sometimes there's fish that come in, they're really skinny. It's like, okay, we got to feed these multiple times a day and really, really baby glove them. But in general, sometimes once a day is enough if you use the right food. Okay, let us see. Hey, David's Aquatics has chimed in. Here, per W, I'm a good speller. Yeah. Well, David, congratulations on winning. Please send us an email with your first name and your last name and your shipping address to hello@dancefish.com. That's HELLO at dancefish.com. And we'll get a shipping date set up with you and get you some true Siamese algae eaters. All right, I am going to shut it down early just because, like I said, tomorrow and the next day, well, and the couple days after that too, are going to be crazy. We have a lot of rare and in some cases very expensive fish landing, and I've got to get all ready for that. I've got to deal with all the paperwork and such associated, and have a little traveling to do. So I'm going to cut it, but before I do, I want to thank my moderators for moderating. I want to thank all the members of the channel for being members, and anyone that gave memberships away, thanks for doing that. I so appreciate that. Everyone who threw money at us, thanks for the super chats. If you were active in the chat, thanks for participating. If you were not active in the chat, I still love you. Hail the Lurker Nation. If you're watching on the replay, thanks for watching and hello from the past. And if you're listening to the podcast that I'm like 6 months behind on updating, thanks for your patience and thanks for listening. All right, I should be back next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Till then, I really hope you have a great week, and I'll see you then. Bye-bye, everybody.